Hi, Tiny Artist here. Now I know this video has a long timestamp, please don't let that scare you. I have built in stretch breaks for those of you who are watching this somewhere where you can get up and move every once in a while, and there will also be auditory reminders to drink your water throughout the video, noted by this sound. So sit back, grab your snacks, and hopefully you enjoy. Hello and welcome back to Tiny Artist TV. For today's video, I'm going to do something a little more casual, something that's been popular on YouTube, not as popular now because of course I'm late to getting on trends, but it's something that I wanted to do. I'm going to be ranking the first 50 of my color palette challenge creations, and I will be doing this for the last group as well. Initially I wanted to do this live, but because it's such short notice, like there is no way I could garner enough attention to actually have enough people join in on a live stream of this to make this entertaining. So you're just getting a video form for now, but, and the bar is so very low for this, if I can get 50 likes or at least enough comments and engagement down below this video, I will do the next one live instead of pre-recorded. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the ranking. So as mentioned, I have the first 50 here. There are actually 52 illustrations that I'm going to be categorizing because there are a couple of color palettes where I did a couple different iterations. Not all of the multiple iterations are here, just the ones that I thought were not redundant enough to have in the collection. So I have my little icons here in the bottom, but because they are so very small, I also have the enlarged version over on the left hand side so you guys can see better what I'm looking at. And they're not in numerical order. I will be putting the number up in editing. I couldn't be bothered to do that ahead of time. They're in alphabetical order because that's how the files were uploaded. Anyway, so we're starting off with Abby X. So this one feels a little weird because currently the Abby X drawing video is one of my most popular, if not the most popular video on my YouTube channel as of me recording this, which isn't saying much. It's gotten 115, something upwards of that views. I don't know if it's my most liked video, but it definitely has the most views. And as far as, I'm not going to try to have that influence how I feel about these drawings. This is just how I feel, how I was able to execute. So we've got the rankings here. 10 out of 10, no notes. It's all good. Granted, perfection is impossible, but this is as close as we're going to get. 8 or 9 out of 10, it's like a strong A+ to a B. 7 is kind of just, you know, somewhere in the middle. It's could do better, could have done worse. 5 or 6 is the lowest I feel I am comfortable with submitting any of my artwork. Like having it be what I consider low quality in my portfolio, but passable enough to still post on social media or to put a video up. And then down here in the bottom is like, nope, try again, you messed up. So Abby X, I love the colors, I love the vibe. I do think, looking back at it now, I could clean up the lines a little bit. I'm feeling this is going maybe in a 7. I think we're going to start somewhere in the middle. So this will kind of be my gauge for how I feel things are going to be going forward. Now, of course, I will probably shuffle some of these around as we go, but for now, I'm going to put Abby at a 7. See, next up, we have Apple Tree. This was the first video I did for the Color Palette Challenge in 2023. So this was the, I believe, the first villain of the Magical Girls series. Yeah, I forgot to mention that Abby X is also from the Magical Girls series. She was one of the later heroes, but this was the first villain in that series, and this was the first video coming back into the series for 2023. The lines are clean, the colors are clean. I feel like I could have done something more exciting with the execution. I don't want to put it in 5 or 6 because of how clean it is, but the execution, like, the pose could be more exciting and the magic could be a lot more readable. I think that's something that's lost when I posted this on social media. This was very faint, and most people are looking at these images on their phones. I think I'm gonna have to put this in passable, not because of the quality, but just because of the execution. So next up we have our most recent. This one is number 50. This was the last one that I just finished. The color palette is Ariel, and this was one of my Candy Girl additions. Granted, she's not, you know, made of candy, but she is a Candy Girl in spirit. I have said she's canonically part of my Candy Girls lineup. This one, I'm really tempted to give it a 10 because it's clean, it's interesting, the idea is well executed. I think I'm gonna have to have this as my first 10. Okay, so cut and dry. Next up we have Medusa with the color palette of Beach Party. And this one has a very similar feeling for me as far as cleanliness, execution, and intrigue. But I think I'm gonna put this one at a 9. Like the 8-9 category, just because of the big block of blue in the back. As a print, this would look really cool if you just got like some clean white matting, a black or a blue frame, pop this up on the wall, call it a day. Good, it's great. As an image, I don't know, like I'm just, it's not pushing into a 10 for me. I think it's just staying at an 8 or a 9 because maybe if I had done something else with the background. But what I like about this is that she's the only thing that's like really attention grabbing, and everything else is like encapsulating her. But it's just not hitting the same as the Ariel color palette. So I'm gonna put her in an 8. Alright, so next up we have Berry Whip. So this was the first one from the fully rendered series that I did of antique armor. These were, I took the color palettes and I looked up antiques with those colors and then kind of amalgamated them together to make these fantasy based armor sets. So this one I really like. I don't want to just jump and put this one in a 10, but I really like the way this one turned out too. Everything's just like soft in the right places, and there's good texture and good lighting, and I think I'm going to put this in 10. I see what's coming up next. And we've got a pretty good spread here so far. There's nothing in the dumpster yet, so happy about that. Up next is one of the other more recent ones. I believe this was 48 in the last set of 4 that I did for the color palette Spooky group. This was the Drow Priestess of the Black Elk. And this one's kind of rare because this is like one of the only ones that has a more like full background to it. But if I left it with the beige background that I normally do, maybe I could have made it red. But if I left it plain is the thing, this character would not have worked. That being said, in the video I ranked this as a C. I think I still hold to that. But maybe not a 5-6 C, maybe a 7 C. Because there was effort put into it. I put effort into trying to make it presentable, even though when I was working on this piece, I was like, oh, this is it's something. But I do think it's, now that it's kind of marinated, I'm gonna put it here next to Abby at a 7, because the lines are still clean. I think I would just need to spend more time fixing the coloring. refining the textures a little bit and refining the lighting a little bit and just making something stand out a little bit more. Like the fur collar just looks a little bit rough, and maybe making the skulls on her belt a little more readable. But overall, it's not bad. It's definitely one that I could like spend another hour or two just really refining and pushing and polishing things. So next up, oh, this was Black Raspberry, we have Blastoise. Now this one is also a C for me. And the pose is fine, it's just the lines. The lines are bothering me, especially in the hair. The line art is very jagged. I think if I was in the seagulls. I think with this one, I love the outfit. The outfit is very like, you know, put together. I think I had just finished watching like a Frugal Aesthetic video when I was making this, so I had like fashion fresh on the brain. But I don't know, something about it just feels not quite up to the standard that, like, maybe when I made it I was feeling better about it, but now, because this was again part of the heroes and villains way back when, this was villain number 2, I believe. Maybe back then I was like, yeah, this is fine, but like now looking at some of the other characters that I've done up to this point, this one kind of falls a little flat for me, and I think I'm actually going to put it next to the other villain down here in 5 or 6. Not in the dumpster, he's safe from the dumpster, but out of a 5 or 6. Alright, I'm back. I'm sure you wouldn't have known I was gone, but I needed to get water. I was starting to get a little froggy. Alright, so we left off on Blastoise. Next up, it looks like it is Boyfriend. Now, I want to put this one kind of somewhere in between these two tiers. This one feels lazy to me. It's a cool character, but I definitely should have done more with it. And I think this was part of the free group, the kind of in between. I think when I was doing the 3 sets of 3 to get back up to an even number, this was one of the free groupings. Again, clean lines, clean colors, but boring execution, so I'm gonna put it in C. Gonna put it above Blastoise because it's cleaner than Blastoise, but it's about the same amount of excitement as Apple Tree here. Alright, so next up we have, so this is a good one. We're finally back to the good stuff. This was, as you can see by the date here, was from 2022. And I'm pretty sure this was number... It was less than 10 because I hadn't gotten to the Magical Girls yet. This might have been number 5 or 6. Well, of course I'll put the appropriate number up on the screen, but this was one of the earlier ones when I was still fresh and full of ideas and not scraping the bottom of the barrel for inspiration. This one I'm going to put at an 8 or 9. I just feel like it's missing just a little bit of something that could push it over. I think maybe if I got rid of the beige square and made it like a full background, I think that would take it over to a 10. But for now, I'm fine putting it... I'm going to put it above Medusa. Yeah, I'm going to put it... Or do I want to go ahead and bump it up to 10? We'll see. We'll see what else ends up here, and I'll decide if I want to bump it up to 10 a little bit later. And next up we have Cozy Sweater. This was one of the ones that I used for the Dynamic Poses tutorial set. This is, even though it's a little more on the simple side because of the execution and the coloring and the lighting, I think I did a really good job with this one. I'm going to put this at a high 7. It's not quite at an 8 for me. Maybe it is. I think I'm gonna bump this up to an 8. I'm gonna put it right next to Medusa. Because for some reason, it's not quite... It's below... What's this, Boysenberry? What was this one? Yes, this one was Boysenberry, but not quite above Beach Party. Now, I remember how I felt when I finished this one. I thought I was on to something. I posted this on Facebook. I posted this on Twitter. It just goes to show you how quickly your attitude can change with a little bit of time. Now, do I think it's bad? No. Do I think it's as good as I thought it was when I first finished this? No, because I very distinctly remembering that this was like it. And I don't think it really took me that long for that feeling to fade because of the next few pieces that I did after this. And I think this was one of those pieces that had me feeling like just because you spend a long time on something doesn't mean it's good. And unfortunately, that's a harsh reality that a lot of artists need to hear. Just because you put a lot of time into something doesn't make it better than something that took 15 minutes, 20 minutes. If you spend 4 hours on it and the proportions are wrong, the proportions are still going to be wrong and you spent that much time on it. That's not what's happening here. What's happening here is that I spent, I think, about an hour working on the peacock dress, and I think where it's falling short for me, I think I could have done more with the dress. I think I could have bedazzled her more. But I think for where I was when I did this, I thought this was good enough. And it is still really good. But I'm older now. I'm more wizened. This was from 2022. And I know I can do more. I've leveled up. So where am I going to put this? I'm going to put her in 7, but I'm going to put her at a high 7. So ahead of Blackberry, but not quite up to Abby X. Because Abby X was a more full design idea overall. She had a whole story. This was just like, she came to me in a dream and I drew it kind of thing. The muses overtook me. This one, you may think this is a more recent one. So this one I did a little something weird. This was actually part of the first spooky group, and I didn't post the drawing process in that video because I got this bee in my bonnet, like, oh, this is an eldritch being, what if I did something weird where it was like interference? So for the 2 out of the 3 videos, because by the 3rd video I was like, this is a stupid idea, but I've followed through with it this far, but I've done enough with it to do this sort of like interference. So I had bits of this drawing clipped in with those other videos, and then I posted its own drawing video with no voiceover at 3 a.m. this past Wednesday, which is one of my usual posting days. I'll usually post on Wednesday or Saturday. Now, why did I do that? Because I'm so proud of the way this turned out. Kind of flubbering between if I was trying to say was proud of it or am proud of it, because this is a really cool design. It's like, it's very much like 70s, 80s, like that kind of over the top comic look. I'm gonna put this in 10, but I'm just gonna say this on the record. I do think I may have gone into corny territory with how I treated this one in the videos. I just wanted to try something new with how I present my drawings, because it's, you know, very formulaic. I do the idea, the sketch, the line art, the coloring, and I tell you my thought process behind that. With this one, I just wanted to try something different, and I don't know how it was received. As of now, it's kind of gotten a soft landing. So, I guess we'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell. This was Electric Tiger. Yeah. Next up. This is a C. I'm not even going to talk about it. This is a low C. It's bordering on dumpster / rework. I guess I do need to talk about it, because that's the point of this video. My thoughts are the same. It's safe. It's fine, but it's safe. I could have done much more with the colors, and I could have done something with the dress. I tried to do something with the dress, but it was too busy, and I couldn't figure out a middle ground between all over and just doing a little bit, and so it's fine. Moving on. Oh, this one I also remember fondly. This one was from 2022, again, back when I was young and fresh, and this was number 3, I believe. This is Frost Giant. Frosted Mountain is coming up next. This is Frost Giant. And I remember going through several iterations of what was basically Solace to get to this point. And I'm so glad I got to this point. Now, an idea, it's a 10 for me. I think if I redrew this character just as is, just redrew it with, I won't say cleaner lines, because the style that this is, it's supposed to be kind of like storybook, a little messy. This is a very strong 8 or 9 for me. I'm gonna put it right here. The reason it's not a 10 is just because I think redoing this, I could just put a little bit more into it. But it's a 9.9 for me. So, next up, this is Frosted Mountain. So, Frosted Mountain is number 4, and it's funny that they were kind of like right next to each other in the sequence. Oh wow, I don't remember giving her a gemstone in the middle of her head, but there it is. So, this for me, clean lines, excellent coloring. I want to put this as a high, either a high 7 or a low 8. I think I'm going to put this as a low 8. That's what I'm feeling, because it's not mid enough to be a 7. Like, I still look at this and I'm like, this is clean. This is good. I could submit this to, you know, whatever. Now, hopefully that mentality doesn't change, but considering that this is a year old and I still feel this way, I usually find that if I can come back to something after like 6 months to a year and still think that like, no, like this is good, then it's probably good. But there are some things where I'm like, ooh, girl, no. All right, we have our second Candy Girl. This was another one of the freestyle creations. This one is a 9.9, maybe bordering on a 10. It's fun, it's clean, I think I want to put this as a 10. Now, looking at what else I have in 10, I think I'm going to move Berry Whip down, I might, the styles are just so different, because if I'm going to put this in 10, it's just so different, because all of the rest of these are like cell shaded illustrations, whereas this was a completely different execution and coloring style and thought process. Yeah, this feels right. Even having this above this feels right. Okay. Yeah, so this was Gingerbread. This was number 30 something. It might have been 32 or 33. Yeah, it was kind of in the middle of where we are now. Gyarados. Oh gosh, this yellow is doing psychological warfare against me, because like, I think if it didn't have this fun, obnoxious yellow background, I don't know, even if it was just beige, I think I would still feel the same way I do about this. This is a 10 for me. And the reason it's a 10 is because the idea kind of came out of nowhere. I was kind of thinking of like along the same lines of this sort of weird eldritch being, the same idea with the Electric Tiger Eidolon, but I wanted to go in a fun direction with it because of the color palette. That's it. It's basically just like a fun demon. This is a 10 for me just because it feels straight out of like kind of a Sonic the Hedgehog type game, where like nothing in it is to be taken seriously. And I think I was able to deliver on something that's interesting and balanced and well executed. And then of course I also use this drawing to give some tips about doing line art, because as you should know at this point, unless you're new, if you're new, hi, but for those of you who have watched my many videos at this point, I'm a line art lover, not a hater. So I took the opportunity to give some tips about line art and how to better understand how to make your lines do what you need them to do. Yeah. So anyway, moving on to the next one. Honey Bears. And this was another recent one. This was another one that's part of the spooky group. I wish I had a better idea what to do with this overall idea. I want to put it at a 6 for execution, but a 7 for cleanliness. So because of that, I'm going to put it at the bottom of 7. So it would be like a 6.9, bordering on a 7 for me. So I'll put it up here. This idea was just this like gross eldritch deer creation, a child of Shub-Nigroth, who's, I think, not meat and mouth, that's a different entity, but yeah, just this sort of gloopy amalgamation of a thing that it's been eating. And in the video, you can see where I had added some extra heads in the background here to fill out space, and it was too distracting. Like, it looked cool and it looked creepy, but then once I started getting into this, I was like, I don't need that. I need to figure out a better way to bring this idea into fruition. A low 7, high 6 for this one. Still nothing in the dumpster yet. We're not done yet, though. This one might be our first dumpster baby. Now, even though, and this was from the Magical Girl series, it's just messy. It's just messy, and I think I want to redraw this character in a more cohesive fashion. Like, I wouldn't take away any of her accessories. I would just make them more readable. and I would make the hair a little less all over the place. It's supposed to be these twin lock tails, and it just looks like one big mane. So I think I would condense the design and make it a little more like Sailor Moon-esque, more thin. But because of the style of fashion that I was inspired by, that's why I gave it so much volume. But because of the volume, you can't even see like her digital ribbon bits here. Like, there's just so much in this design, and I don't need to edit anything down aside from the hair, but it just needs to be redone better. So I think, even though I finished this one and called it done in the video, this one might end up in the makeup work video, because there's already one that I pulled out of the makeup work video, so that would still put me at 2 instead of 3, and we'll get to that one when we get to that one. So this one's gonna be our first rework of the series. Next up is Hydrangea. This is a strong 7.9 to an 8 for me. It's just simple and clean and cute and funky. I wasn't trying to break any molds with this particular design. I literally just saw these colors and was like, what if Afro Puffs but hydrangea bush? So that's what I did. And I think I'm gonna put it at, yeah, high 7, low 8. So right in this pocket right here, next to Frosted Mountain. Next up, we have another magical girl. I'm tempted to put this one in 10. And because of that, I think I am just going to go ahead and put it in 10. Because every time I look at this, I just get like this warm, bubbly feeling in my heart. Like, she's just so cute. And the textures and the colors. The only thing that's bothering me is I should have moved it just a little more centered. But the design, the idea, the execution, I remember having to go through several passes of color to get things seated where I wanted them to sit. But once I got there, it was easy breezy. So I'm going to put this at a 10. And I think currently I have more 10s in here than I thought I would have, which is, it's good. That's good for my, it's good for my ego, because artists are notoriously hard on themselves, so it's good to go back to old work and be like, no, like, yeah, this was good. Okay, so next up, so this is the first duo that we have, and if you look, you can probably see the Toucan Sam duo down here. So this duo was Lapras. This was another one for the spooky group, and I did include both illustrations in the video. And this was the video where Electric Tiger was actually supposed to show up, and where I got my brilliant idea to like include it but not include it and do something separate. So this was Will-O-Wisp, and then the other iteration is this hag character. Now, even though, so the prompt for me, the criteria that I was trying to meet was spooky. Not necessarily outright horror, just like spooky or unsettling or like creepy. So this is very much more like cute spooky, whereas this is more like just outright nasty spooky. I think I want to put this one in a 7, but a high 7 above Abby X, because Abby's got the messy line. So this one at least has clean lines, even if it's a simple execution. I love her little bonnet. It's cute. And then I think I want to put this one, because you can tell I put more effort into it. But I think this one's also just a 7 for me. These colors were really hard to work with because they're so close together that it's hard to make something readable with these colors without adding a bunch to it. So I think maybe if I had, you know, more brain juice, I could have figured out something else to do with this character to make these colors work better. The execution for me is a 9. So that's not the issue. I think I want to put this one, I'm going to put this as a high 7 as well. High 7, low 8, but not quite up here. Alright, next up. Very similar color palette. Very different execution. I didn't have yellow for this one, was the main difference. Or yellow and orange, because the other one, let me see. Yeah, this is Lapras, is the color palette. So yeah, we've got these blues and purples, but it also has the yellow and the orange. This one has, yeah, it's mostly blues and greens with this sort of fuchsia and this pink. This one, I really like the way it turned out. I think it's only an 8. Which is funny to say, I think it's only an 8, considering that, like, 8 is the second tier. Yeah. And good coloring, good execution. And it's... this was one where I was able to see the progression of these types of characters that I've been drawing. So this is a Festian. This is the third one that I've drawn. The other one is down here somewhere. Yeah, she's down here all the way at the end of the tier list. And so when I posted this to Instagram, I was able to pull up 3 Festians to see the first one that I drew back in, I believe it's 2019, either 2019 or 2020, and then have this one in 2022, and then this one a year later to see the progression of how I'm able to execute this particular race of aliens, and just like seeing the evolution of the cleanliness of my lines and color choices and execution for textures and things like that. So I think this one for me is a high 8. I will put you here. Yeah, above these two. Alright, next up. Oh, we've got the little pumpkin boy. It's a 10 in my heart, but I think it's only going to be an 8 or 9 on the tier list. Just because of what's up here. This is going to be like a hard bracket to break. Like, I can't just give everything a 10 because it gives me the warm fuzzies. But this one was simple to execute, but I think it was well done. And I am going to put you right here at a high. So like if this is, we're going 8 to 9 this way. So like this is closer to like 9.9s and this is closer to like 8 and 8.1 or 7.9, even though I guess technically 7.9 would be up here. But yes, my little pumpkin boy, the color palette Mango Smoothie, was the first one in the spooky group. This is actually in the same video as these two here. And I think this is probably the shortest segment I've done for a video in a really long time, because I had the idea and it just, you know, did what it needed to do. Okay. Next is Mint Melon. This is a 10. This is the 10 out of 10 for me. I knew it was going to be hard to beat Ariel. my little squid girl. They're both candy girls. Actually, three of my candy girls are in a 10 out of 10. So I'm on to something here. I don't know what to say about it. I don't know. I don't know what to say. She's cute. I love her. Again, an idea that I was able to execute once I gathered like the proper references for it. Just kind of like, oh, this is what I'm trying to do. I don't know what to say. It's 10 out of 10. It's going to be hard to beat this one. If there's anything in here that I think can beat this one, because I feel very strongly that this is my favorite drawing out of the entire series so far. If you disagree, get in the comments. Or actually, this tier list is, if you have a tier list account, it's on my account, so you can rank them as well. Send me a screenshot, tweet at me, whatever. Next up is Pastel Dream number 2. So this one's number 2 because I have a version that doesn't have the like glitchy chromatic aberration on it. But this is the one I wanted to judge because this was the overall picture. And I had posted both of them to Twitter, be like, oh, like kind of which one do you like better? But this was the initial vision. So Pastel Dream, I give it an 8 or a 9 on the idea. I give it a 7 on the execution. And because of that, I'm going to have to put it in a 7. The pose is a little awkward. I think I could have done something different with the arms, because she's like this, but this is like not a very comfortable pose. But she's kind of like, she's in the middle of something, so I don't know. And then the bunny ears aren't quite lined up right on her visor. There's just like little nitpicky things that if I was going to do this again, I would just rework certain areas. So it's not a low 7. I would say it's a mid 7, kind of right next to the other magical girl, because this was the second magical girl out of the Heroes and Villains series. This one is not part of the Magical Girl series, even though she looks like it. I think this was one of the freestyle characters, because I remember doing this in the video with the gingerbread and Venusaur. So this is Peach Tea. This is... oh... I don't know why it feels like a 6 for me. Because it's clean lines, clean execution, again, clean colors, all that good stuff. Because this is much later in the series, so at this point, I've been more consistently paying attention to quality instead of just trying to pump something out. And this was from 2023, so this is from like maybe a month or 2 ago. But for some reason, it feels like a 6. I'm gonna put it in low 7 until I can figure out why it feels like a 6 to me. Maybe it's just because like part of it might be it feels too crowded. I think that's what it is. Because the pose is fine. There's enough going on for it to be interesting. But there might just be like just like one thing too much going on with this particular illustration, and that's what's putting it at like a high 6, low 7 for me. Plant Papa. This was my spirit collar. This was also from the most recent video that I've posted. Eidolon notwithstanding, because that was its own thing. I really like this one. It's not... I would say it's a mid 8. Somewhere between, like an 8.5. Like, I think I was able to appropriately capture the vibe that I was going for. Like, in the video, I had said something about, like, Scooby-Doo Zombie Island. And, like, this feels like that to me. Like, Tealdana from, like, Pirates of the Caribbean, that like deep ancient magic, that feeling. Oh boy. The Jorogumo. Poison Apple Color Palette Jorogumo. I could have spent another 30 minutes on this one, just really working it. It's not quite dumpster, but it is going in 5 and 6. Moving on. This one, compared to the other 2 drawings that I did in the video, I feel like this one might feel a little boring, but on its own, it's a very nice illustration. I want to put this one at a high 7 because it's not, it's not breaking any new ground, but it is nicely done, I feel. Let's see. This is Rain and Lilies. I'm pretty sure this one was number 6 or 7. This was way back in the beginning. I don't have the date, but I know for a fact this one was from 22 when I was still active on Twitter. I think I want to go back into this file and adjust the levels of the shadow. I don't want to change anything with the character. I love the character. I love her like stinky brat energy. But because of how dark it is, it's very hard to read some of the details. Like, let me zoom in here. And actually, maybe I can do this for the rest of them. But her like scrungly little ponytails here, and she has like moss and whatnot growing on her shoulders. She has a second pair of hands here. This veil, which is slightly obscuring some of the things. I think I could have handled the shading better. I was coming at this illustration with the intention of it being like a dark, murky, boggy, you can see everything's like wet and goopy and just like dank. And so I push the shadows because sometimes when I'm doing my shading, I'm too timid to go too dark with the shadows. But this time I think I could have let up on the pedal just a little bit. So as much as I love this character, I think for execution, this is going to be a high 7, like a 7.9, because there are some things that I can fix in here, but it's not awful. It's not quite an 8 or 9, and fixing that would put that at an 8 or 9 for me. Next up is Scream Queen. This was the last villain in the Heroes and Villains series. Ooh, I'm not used to talking this long. My videos are usually like 15 minutes. We've been going for a while now. Again, I'm gonna zoom in because I feel like there's some details that unless you watch the video, you're gonna miss. So like her makeup, again, covered by a veil. I don't know what it is with me and covering characters' faces with veils. I guess it's just my like shorthand way of adding mystery. But it's covering up this. I love her makeup. I love her makeup. If I was like a makeup girly, I would probably rock this look somewhere. But I'm not. I wear lipstick, maybe eyeliner if I'm feeling fancy. Anyway, we're here to talk about the art, not my makeup aspirations. This is another character where I knew I wanted to do a lot with it. And yet, I don't feel like I did enough. I feel like the idea is there, but not unlike this one here, the fairy, the blue fairy from way back. I feel like I didn't push it far enough, especially if this is like Saturday morning villain. To me, this is reading like maybe Castlevania, which is fine, but that's not what I was going for. I was going for Saturday morning villain, over the top, like vampire adjacent fashionista type aesthetic, like Victorian, all the, you know, the things. I could have done a better job with this. I was trying to figure out the best way to do a hand-drawn lace, and I should have just pulled up some references and just, you know, drawn it in as I do. But I wanted a specific shape, and so I figured like, okay, yeah, this is fine. I just feel like, I don't know, it's an 8 or a 9 for me. I'd say maybe an 8.7. So that's gonna put her here between Medusa and my spirit collar. But I could have done more. This was the very first illustration from the color palette challenge. This is Spring Morning. This is my cute little Luna moth. The dreamy effect is what pushes it into a 7 out of a 6 for me, because I went that far to try to capture an aesthetic, to make it soft and fluffy and dreamy. So I'm gonna put her in, where do I want to put her in the 7s? I'm gonna put her above Abby because the lines are cleaner. But other than that, as far as like execution of the color handling and the design overall, it's about the same, but she has clean lines, so that gives her an extra point in the right direction. Ooh. This one's not finished. I explained that in the video that this is as far as I got before I decided that I need to come back and recollect what I've done so far. For that reason alone, I'm gonna put it in dumpster / rework, because it is in the rework bucket still. If I had said, no, I wouldn't say this was a finished piece. I mean, maybe I would put it at a 5. Maybe even a 5.5 because of the rendering, but it's in the dumpster for a reason. Moving on. This was the first magical girl from the Heroes and Villains series. Her leg bothers me to this day. I don't know why I didn't change the angle to be parallel with this leg. I'm not going to redo this one because I want to keep moving forward. If I'm going to redraw her, the only thing I'm going to change is I'm just going to take this leg and just bend it a little more to the right. Leg notwithstanding, like, we're ignoring that. For the idea, the execution, the cleanliness, the handling of the color palette, I'm gonna give this one a high 7. This is a high 7.9, which makes her the highest ranking magical girl. Oh! No, it doesn't, because we have Jawbreaker up here, sitting at 10. So, out of the ones that are sitting in this row, she's the highest ranking magical girl. It is what it is. I might have done something different with the eye patch too. The shape of the eye patch has just been bothering me a little bit. Like, the way it's sitting on her face just doesn't feel quite right with the angle of the face. So for those little things, I would, you know, take a couple points off, and like, those are things that I would fix if I was going to redo this particular illustration. I did cheat with this one, and I added red because she needed the help. She needed a little pop of color, but it works, so it's fine. Now this is another example of just because you spent a long time on it doesn't mean it's good. This was one that I had used for the dynamic poses video. I like the pose. I like the outfit. Something about it still feels boring to me. So, because of that, I'm going to put this in a 5 or 6. Yeah. This is more interesting to me than this is. I feel like I was trying to do too much with this and it ended up reading as like inauthentic for some reason. Like I might have used too many effects on the fire and it's kind of blown out. But I also remember having spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I wanted it to look. That I wanted it to be more close to this color here. And I just couldn't get it to cooperate without like just doing a layer of that color, but then even still blurring it out and adding the glow, change the color in a way that I didn't quite like. So I made do with what I was able to figure out. And I think if I had to redo this, I would get rid of the flames, or at least just change the color of the flames and get rid of the flames on the sword, because the flaming sword is like, it feels cliche. But for the character that I was doing, it makes sense. This is a, it's not a Nekomata. It's akin to a Nekomata. But it's a Japanese cat spirit. And I had done one of these for August in 2019. So similar to the Jorogumo, I redrew a spirit from that series to see if I could better execute the idea. And it's better than the original. Well, is it? The original one is really cute. I have it up on my Instagram. If you're curious what it looks like, my Instagram is tinyartist516. So if you want to take a look at it, I have them side by side so you can see the original that inspired the redraw. But moving on to the first Candy Girl, the one who started it all. This is Sweet Thing. This, for me, because she was the first Candy Girl, I want to put her at an 8 or a 9. And I think I still will. But there are definitely some things I could have done a little bit better. Like, if we look at the face here, the angle of the mouth, I should have curved the teeth a little bit more. And then the shape of the eye is just not quite right. But I wanted her to be kind of like sharky and mischievous. I just could have handled that better. And then the angle of the headband is also not quite right. So to just go in and fix that, I'm not going to, but if I was going to fix this, that's what I would do. And I'm going to put her at, let's say 7.5. So like right around here. Yeah, that feels right. Oh. That's the wrong tier. Why didn't y'all tell me? Alright, 7.5. She's going... Yep, that feels right. Because at least their facial proportions are correct. These need work. Next up, Teal Dream. Teal Dream was part of the lighting tutorial video. So I did 3 of the color palettes for lighting, different styles of lighting tutorials. This one was for simple sunlight. This sad little farmer boy is just kind of like, what do you want? What do you want from me? This one is easily an 8 or a 9 for me. And I'm gonna put him here. The idea was very simple, but I think I was able to accomplish what I wanted to with this particular illustration and showing you guys how to do this like simple but effective dappled light technique. And just overall, it's a cute picture. Like, you know, with if I got rid of, so I had mentioned this in the first spooky group video. If you guys want any prints of any of these characters, it will have my signature, but it won't have the color palette on it, so you'll just get the character. So this as a standalone illustration, I don't know who would want it, because it's kind of a weird like situation that he's in, but with just this, I think it was well executed, and I was able to do what I wanted to do with it for the purpose of the video. So for that reason, I'm going to put it at an 9 tier. So like an 8.7. Tafiti. I want to put this in 10. I'm looking for mistakes to not put it in 10, but it's been a while since I've put something in 10. I'm going to put it in 10. I'm going to put it in 10. And I'm going to put it, yeah, here feels fine, because I know if I look long enough, there's probably going to be something that I can find wrong with it, but it's up there. It's a 10 for me. This one was really, like, it was kind of a pain in the butt to work on because of all of the flowers, but at the same time, it was really fun because of, like, these gorgeous fall colors, and just the way that I was able to have this one be a lot more, like, flowy and free. And the antiques that I had pulled for this were so pretty, and just to be able to just draw something that I don't normally draw, like, for this video, I had said that I was very heavily inspired by South Asian theater, and again, if you look at their costumes, or even if you just look at, like, what is it, Miss World, the pageant, the costumes that they do, that's the kind of thing that I was going for, this, like, just, like, goddess inspired feeling. So I feel like I was able to accomplish that. Yeah, this one's a 10 for me. It's so funny going from this back to my 2D illustrations. So this is Toucan Sam. I did 2 iterations of this color palette. This was also part of the lighting tutorial set. So for this particular character, the intention was to show strong lighting to convey mood. So as you can see here, there's a lot of different things that play into the overall mood of an illustration, and so I did alter a couple of things. With the lighting, I have the face to match the intensity of this bright yellow, like, street light, like, oh, there's danger here. Whereas this one, her face is more calm, more serene. The purple light is more, like, sort of dreamy, sort of dusky. But there's a knife right here, and I don't know how many of you noticed that because nobody said anything. Anyway, just to kind of push the point of how you can feed into the mood of your illustration. This one, you have no idea what's behind her bag. It could just be, you know, a bundle of flowers, could be a teddy bear, whatever. You don't know. This one, she's holding the weapon, invisibility, but because the mood is so different, you don't pay attention to it. For the pair of them, because they're pretty similar, I do like this one better. I like the purple one better than the yellow one. I think I want to put this one at a 6.9, so up here, and I want to put this one, actually I want to put this one at an 8. The idea is just more cohesive. The idea is just more cohesive. This one, I was very much, like, not hiding the fact that I was going for, like, kind of shock factor, kind of like Higurashi vibes, if you're familiar with that anime or manga. How they're, like, they lay it on thick, the shock factor. So I was inspired by that to handle the lighting in that regard. And then having this one be the other side of that coin, where they're just in, like, stone cold killer mode. So, moving on. We have Mr. Attention here. And I think I want to give this one... So, let me backtrack and explain my feelings for this ranking. What's funny is that when finishing this one, I had the exact same feeling as when I finished my Blue Fairy. However, I still feel the same way about this one. So for that reason, Blue Fairy ended up being in like the mid-7s. This one, I know I have stronger designs, but I still love this design. I'm gonna put this one at like an 8.9. So it's gonna go like right in here. Like, yeah, high at the higher end of this tier. This design was part of the Heroes and Villains series. This was the 3rd villain, I believe. And I wanted to do something different as far as what I had been doing, because up to this point, the other 2 villains I had done were Apple Tree and Blastoise. So these very much sort of like preppy, bully, magical girl villains. And the inspiration for each of them was a different style of fashion. So this one was avant-garde. Need I say more? And I maybe could have done more to... No, I don't even know why I'm saying that. I was gonna say maybe I could have done more to refine the idea. This was the idea I had, and I executed it. And it was based on inspiration from, like, Project Runway and past fashion shows, and just, like, the awe and shock that avant-garde is supposed to, you know, give you. And I feel like I did that. So actually, I'm gonna move this up to a 9. It's higher than Goat Boy, though. Ugh. I'll put it here. So these, yeah, this is 9.9. This is like 9.5. So this is a 9. So he gets to come up here. And then before I move on to the next one, I just want to like zoom in on some of these details that might have been lost in the video, or like lost, again, when you look at it on Instagram, you can't quite see everything. But again, just like the makeup, like I don't do enough glitter. In real life, I hate glitter. I hate microplastics. I hate just the little like, because I used to work in a craft store, so having to clean up glitter spills was like a thing that invaded my nightmares, along with having to stay past closing because customers wouldn't leave. Anyway, so yeah, but embracing the glitterness of the avant-garde, the nails, the like holographic pink V nails, and just all the little things, and it's just... Yeah, this is easily a 9 for me. This is one of my sweet precious summer babies. This is a 10 for me. This is another one that's gonna be a 10 because it gives me the warm fuzzies, but it's also well done. It's very clean. It's well executed. Blah, 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 blah. Is this gonna be the one that beats... I think this is going to be the one that beats my Mint Melon Candy Girl. Not for execution, but for personal attachment to this illustration. And if you don't, just watch the video. This is number... It was one of the freestyle ones. I think it's the one that has the Bubble Witch in the thumbnail. I'm pretty sure it's that one. Yeah, this is a 10 for me. Vampire Mummy. Very clean lines. Every time I look at this, I'm surprised at how clean the lines are in this. Like, it's just good. Even the coloring, it's so simple, but it is so crisp. And I think I'm gonna have to put this at a 9 as well. between Boysenberry and Venus Flytrap. Because I wouldn't change anything about this, but it's not quite a 10 for me. It's just really well done. It's one that, cause this was, the date's not on here, but this was also 2022. This was before I did the Magical Girls series. That's how I know it was 2022. Because I had only done the first 2 heroes before 2023. And yeah, it's an 8 or a 9, and I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna try to speed up these last few because I've been talking for quite a while. All right, this one, it's a 7. It's fun, it's colorful, it's cute, but I feel like the execution is maybe just a little bit sloppy, so I'm gonna put it at a high 7. Come on, there we go. And I think I'm actually gonna move this one down, back down here. Now, surprise, surprise. This is the one that I saved from the dumpster. You want to know why? Because I let it sit and I realized it's not that bad. It's actually very cool for a simple like graphic art illustration. Now, I did finish it up. So before I saved it from the dumpster, I was scrolling through my Instagram and I saw this, and I was, because I hadn't posted it on Twitter in the initial character creation thread, but I posted it to Instagram because I was like, I might as well. No one's gonna look at this anyway. I'll just put it up here. And I was scrolling and I looked back at it and I was like, no, this is actually like really cool. At the time, I was struggling to execute what I wanted to do with the idea, like the camouflage. But I actually like how abstract and funky it is now. Like, this feels very street art, streetwear, and that's what I was going for. So I was like, I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna get this out of the dumpster. I'm gonna finish it up. Which for this one, it just needed the border that all the other ones have. And then this little pink accents that are in the background. And that's it. Like, this was already done. And I had been sitting on this since last April or May, thinking that I was going to have to redo this one. So I'm glad I don't. And I'm glad I actually came back around and liked this one. Let me know if you think that that's a fair opinion to have, or if you think this one needs to go back in the dumpster. I'm like, no, you're delusional. You need to go back and work on this one. But I think this one's out of the dumpster. So whereas it would have been here this time last year, I'm now going to put it at a mid 7. I'm going to put it here at a high 7, like a 7.6. All right, so we're down to the last 5. All right. This is a 10. This is a 10. This was part of the lighting video. It's just really cool. Again, the technique that I was using for this was underwater lighting, so kind of the dispersion of light against the waves. This is a 10 for me. This is easily one of my favorites. This is one that has an alternative. I redid this one in red. So she is still blue, but the background is red, and then I did the bubbles in red. Because the point of the video wasn't just lighting, but it was, all of them were to show mood with lighting. So I changed it to red. Actually, let me go ahead and pull it up for you. This is the alternative version of that painting. And what I wanted to do was give it a sense of danger. Because with the blue, it feels very calm, very spacey, very ethereal. With the red, this feels like you stumbled upon this in a lab and now the alarms are going off. Or at least that's how I feel about it. So this was the alternative version. I didn't put it here because it felt redundant. It's exactly the same. The only thing I changed was the background and the highlights and the top of the hair. But this is a 10 for me. I'm going to put it right here. White chocolate. Now, some of you may be thinking, oh yeah, this is a 10. Because the other armors were 10. The other full renderings were 10. I like this better. Hold on a sec. If we're gonna go with dessert metaphors, I like this better without the frosting. So here's the side-by-side comparison for you. The one on the left has the lighting. So the idea was that this was an abandoned statue in the middle of a garden. The one on the right is the same, it just doesn't have the lighting, the glow. And I feel like you can see more of what I did here better. I didn't include this one because this wasn't the final vision. And again, aside from the lighting, it's pretty much identical. But I like this one better. This is a 10. The lighting, even though I executed the idea the way I saw in my head, the way I wanted to, is too much without the proper environment. And because it's just this tulle border, that bumps it down to like a 9.7 for me. So I'm gonna put it, you know what, maybe closer to an 8 then, because I'm looking at all of these and I like these better than this one. I'm gonna put it at a low 8. Last 3. Wildberry is a high 8. This was, again, I think this was the last armor set. It's just better executed than this one is. I don't think it's quite, so maybe it's more of an 8.2. It's fun. It's fun though. But I could have done a better job. 8.2. We'll leave it at that. Maybe even if I bump this down, I have to bump this down. I'm gonna bump this down to a 7. I did too much. I put too much spice in the pot and it turned out, you know, just kind of Our last villain, not the last villain in the series, but the last villain for the magical heroes and villains that we have to rank. This is a 6 for me. I'm not even gonna, you know, do a bunch of bells and whistles with it. I did an alternative version of this one as well, where her coat is black instead of green. I liked that one better, but that wasn't the original vision, so I didn't include it. But I will go ahead and show you. I'll have them side by side on screen. So here they are, side by side. The original is the one with the green coat. The rework is the one with the black coat. So I like the black coat better, but I feel like for what I was trying to accomplish with utilizing the color palette, just having it be all black was a little bit of a cop-out, so that's why I reworked the green to a place where I felt like it worked well with what I was trying to do. But it's still a 6 for me. And last but not least, Yellowfin. So this is the other Festian that I had mentioned when comparing all 3 of the ones that I had drawn. This is a 10 for me. This was one of my earliest, this is 2022. This was one of my earliest works. I believe this was maybe couldn't have been number 3. Less than 10 though. And I still look at this and it's like, yes, I did that. So this one, and there's not a lot of like extra details that I can zoom in to show you. This was just me having fun with expanding on the lore of this alien race that I've created. So the idea behind this one, most Festians are scholars or civilians, and so their makeup is a little more tame. This one, I figured she was from a different part of Festus, and she is an assassin by trade, so she has natural armor. She uses her extra phantom hands as blades, and just other things that, based on her environment, where she's from, things that are built into the character design, like mobility and hardened skin and things like that. And so with the other designs I've done, kind of playing with the idea of like, well, what if this one is from this kind of environment, yada yada. Yeah, this is still a 10 for me. There is a little bit of like mess that I can clean up like here in the skirt, but like if you don't focus on it too much, it just kind of looks like the design in the skirt. But this is kind of where my bucket tool failed to fill certain areas in, and I failed to catch it. Still a 10. How high of a 10? I'm gonna put it here because it is immediately a 10 for me, but I feel that these designs are stronger than this one, but this one is still really well done. All right, that's it. That's the first 50 illustrations for the color palette challenge. I'm going to edit this and go get some lunch because my stomach is shouting at me. So yeah, let me know what you thought of these rankings in the comments, if you would have ranked them differently. As a matter of fact, like I said, go ahead. If you've got a tier maker account, just look up Tiny Artist TV Color Palette Challenge tier list and rank the drawings there. But until then, I'll see you guys next time. Have a weird day.